a year in business, we realized that first, we don't have really a chance against Gong, and secondly, the market dropped heavily. The biggest challenge that we solve is much larger with these financial institutions. The good thing about this whole change is that we don't have competitors anymore.
You guys are coming with a quite innovative product, if I may say. Was that somewhat of an issue, of a challenge also?
Huge challenge. And we made many mistakes there. With the first bank, it took us 9 months after they said yes to actually get it signed.
Tell us maybe about the transition itself. How did you guys kind of navigate that?
I had to lay off 10 people on the spot. That was the toughest day, I think, in my life. The best thing we did is...
Today we are joined by Patrick Trümpi, Chief Sales Officer at Unique. You might know Patrick as a respected thought leader on LinkedIn, but he's definitely more than that. A real strategist and go-getter. In today's episode, Patrick is sharing the recent pivot they've undergone at Unique. Because you see, they launched back in 2021 with a conversational intelligence platform targeted at tech companies. However, they didn't anticipate the fast influx of new entrants, making it actually a red ocean to compete in. So they got thinking and decided it would be a smarter strategic bet to go all in on one vertical. And so Patrick takes us in this pivotal journey. He tells us how they went about this and the transformation the go-to-market had to go through. And what's more, Patrick is also sharing some key learnings relevant for anyone working on enterprise customers. So without further ado, please enjoy from our conversation with Patrick. Hey there! Are you letting your marketing and sales teams leverage the power of deep data? If not, you may want to check out Dealfront. It is Europe's leading go-to-market platform. And Dealfront draws from 3 channels of data: EU company databases, multilingual web crawling, and trigger events. And so this allows you to identify accounts exhibiting genuine buying intent, pinpoint key decision maker, access their contact details, and seamlessly integrate with your CRM for streamlined operations. With deep data comes a deep understanding of how to reach your revenue potential. Oh, and have I mentioned that Dealfront was born and raised in Europe? Therefore, no need to worry about data compliance. They know all about it. Learn more about Dealfront at wearesales.com/Dealfront. Again, that's wearesales.com/Dealfront. So for the people that don't know Patrick yet, can you please introduce yourself and maybe while you're at it, bring in some back experiences?
Yeah, thanks, Dylan, for the quick intro. I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. So, what do I tell about myself? I mean, okay, some of you, as you said at the beginning, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So these days you probably have seen me there at some point. But I'd like to tell, I'm from Europe, more exactly from Switzerland. And in Europe or Switzerland, there is no such thing as a sales culture, like something. Sales isn't well regarded, not a great job to do. I mean, my parents would not have recommended to go into sales. You probably know that.
I would say it's the same in the Benelux, so I get you.
I think it's quite common in Europe. So yeah, I never planned to go into sales when I was 19, 20. I never would have wanted to do sales. But then I moved away to study at the university, far away from my parents. I mean, far away, 4 hours, but that's Switzerland. It's far away from my parents' place because I didn't want to live at home anymore. But my parents said, Patrick, we can't afford this. I had 3 sisters, and from the mountains, Switzerland is a rich country, but still you can't afford necessarily 4 kids to go and study at university outside. So they said, look, you have to either earn your own money or you go to 2 very famous universities close by, and we only pay you like the train tickets. That's fine. But I didn't want that, so I moved out and started a job quite early. I actually sent my CV to a financial consulting company. And so I went there, which was, and it was a bit weird from the start because it wasn't a common, like it wasn't a hiring discussion, where I had the feeling I have to show them that I'm capable. It was the opposite. They were showing that it's worth working there. And then at some point I realized it's 100% commission position where you sell investments, life insurances, and so on to
They have nothing
private
to lose
people.
then.
And they have nothing to lose, obviously. They have to win new employees so that they win a higher margin. And it's it's a bit not a well-regarded business either in Switzerland. But it was an amazing thing for me to start. But I got surprised again on the second day I was there. We had a training, and they said, okay, write down all the names from your friends and the phone number. So we did that, like 30 names for phone numbers or 60 or something. And then they said, okay, now start to call and book the first meetings, not knowing anything about financial. And I'm like, whoa, what? Why? I mean, yeah, that's how it started. My sales career, basically. That was 15 years ago or something like that. And that was rough. That was rough at first. But then it was an amazing sales school. I learned cold calling or warm calling. After that, after I finished studies, I got into B2B sales because it's more complex, it's more interesting long term, and have been there ever since. Yeah.
Awesome. And so today you are Chief Sales Officer at Unique. And so what's kind of the challenge there? Like what were you hired for? And I know we're going to touch on a very particular experience. So maybe we'll keep that for last, but feel free to, explain what Unique is exactly. What's the context you're working in right now so that the listeners, get a grasp of it.
Yes. So I got hired right away as a CSO. That was 2021, like in September. The company was 2 months old by then. So we were really, really ambitious. And product came out 1 month later. I actually brought in the first customer in October before the product launch, 20K customer. And that's how it started. But I also hired already. I had to hire, and that was interesting for me, even though it was not that smart to hire. I hired 27 salespeople. I had 27 salespeople a year later in my team. We were, for those, we're a competitor of Gong, kind of. We didn't do much different stuff, at least at the beginning. That's where we started. Everybody here, I guess, knows Gong, so I don't have to explain that. But at some point, a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, 1.5 years ago, actually, a year in business, we realized that first, we don't have really a chance against Gong. And secondly, the market dropped heavily. I mean, we've, like venture to have as an ICP, ideal customer profile, the tech companies, fast-growing scale-ups wasn't a good place back then to be in. And luckily, the founder and we sold to 4 or 5 financial institutions in Switzerland, because we always tested a bit new ICPs, and the sales team only went after that one ICP that I defined, right? I mean, otherwise they couldn't be successful in any other ICPs.
So that initial ICP was tech. What does that entail exactly?
Yeah, that was a tech, like SaaS, like software development businesses between 50 and 200 employees, more than 20 salespeople, usually more than 20 salespeople in the DACH region, UK and France. That's what, more or less, right? That's what we targeted here with these 27 people. And we tested other ICPs, one of the founders and and we got like 3, 4, 5 big contracts. Big. It wasn't big back then, 50K a year, with these financial institutions. And then we realized actually the biggest challenge that we solve is is much larger with these financial institutions. One of these challenges is that we record calls, right? Physical calls, though, not like Gong, just online calls. You take the app, you record a call, and then it's summarized, basically, and put into the CRM. That's quite simple. Luckily, a year ago, our ass got saved again because GPT came, and these summaries, they actually had a quality that the banks were able to accept. It wasn't the case before. We were almost, on the edge there. at risk, definitely, with our clients. And so we realized that's the biggest challenge we can solve. It's a very easy challenge to solve because you can calculate the business case quite quickly, right? It's a salesperson now in a bank they use 25 minutes to summarize a call, and they have to do it. That's the good thing.
Oh, okay. They have to summarize a call for the customer. And is that in a B2C context or B2B context? Or
both, luckily. Yeah. I mean, B2B is not as strict, but the sometimes there are internal directives that say you have to write that, and that. Yeah. Sometimes there's even on a national level, there are certain rules and documentation rules. That's quite awesome.
Lots of regulation
for us. Yeah. Lots of regulation. So they have to do the process anyway. The one thing, we know that as well, right? The one thing in tax is the same. You don't like is documenting in the CRM. That's just one thing nobody likes.
And it's manual the same with work. Banks. Forget about it. Forget about it. No, I definitely get that. No, I love it.
So we found out.
Yeah,
we found that, right? And then we said, okay, let's go for it.
Yeah, I mean, and you perfectly introduced like the topic that I really want to go deeper on today, because indeed, yeah, you started with Unique with that very general tech persona, but then you realized that many players in the market, or at least many new players in the market, all wanted to go for that same persona, those tech players, because yes, they are more forward thinking, more innovative. So of course, if you bring in a conversational intelligence tool on the market like that one, they will be the first one to go for it. But then because of that crowded market, you decided to simultaneously do two different moves. You changed from vertical, went totally into banking, and then also moved from that SMB market to enterprise customers, because banks, I suppose for you guys, like the interesting ones, they are big and they have like a lot of regulations, as you mentioned. So it's probably not as easy to get one signed as let's say like an SMB account. So you mentioned a little bit that you had a sales team of 27 people, if I'm not mistaken. They went for that more general persona that initially was defined, but then you and the founder went actually to other verticals. Was it then only banking to kind of get like first customers from other verticals going, or how did it all go about?
Yes, I mean, mainly we had others as well, but the strategy was to get contracts with companies that we have somehow an easy entry into, right? Because we have no proof, no social proof, no when a bank asks, okay, with how many other banks do you work? 0, right? That's the question you always face at the beginning, and that's impossible for salespeople to get over. It's the biggest pain you have. So that was the entry, and we have quite a good network here in Switzerland. So we got in touch quite easily with a few banks, and we actually participated. That's the best thing I think we've ever done. Kickstarter, it's called. It's kind of an event organized by an independent organization in Switzerland that brings startups with corporations, that connects startups with corporations. So we were able to participate there, and we came in. Yeah, we were in the last round. I mean, in the final round, and then we were able to connect. So we closed Mobiliar, for instance, one of the biggest insurances in Switzerland, Post Finance, one of the biggest banks in Switzerland. And we got a big pharma company, the biggest telco company, Swisscom, that all started with a first yearly contract with us. That was awesome. And from there on, we were able to really continue, especially in the banking area. And that's where we are.
I think it's a clear signal indeed from that particular segment of the market that, yes, we are ready as well for it. But still, I can imagine that because it is the banking industry and it is also a well-regulated industry, you guys are coming with a quite innovative product, if I may say. Like, was that somewhat of an issue, of a challenge also?
Huge challenge. And we made many mistakes there, honestly. I think the first bank was extremely patient with us. One example, and the good thing about this whole change is that we don't have competitors anymore. Gong nobody in the banking area in France, in Benelux. I'm not sure about Benelux though, but in Germany and Switzerland and France, definitely not. They would not be able to work with a company that, potentially their data can be accessed from the US. The only company who can do it is Microsoft. Microsoft is fulfilling all the requirements. They have special contracts. It's a huge thing. It was a huge thing for them, and they're not even with some banks. They're still not able to work with because of they are not yet happy. But there are many banks who do work with Microsoft nowadays. Now. That's the good thing. We had no more competitors because data for banks and insurances, that's incredibly critical. Swiss banks even worse because, the Swiss tax
They have
and
their reputation,
stuff, the future. Yeah, exactly. So that was and what we had still when we started conversations with the banks, we still had a subcontractor list of American companies. In our subcontractors, we used technologies like MongoDB, like other stuff, Intercom, for instance, that were in the US. And we did some processing even in the US of data. And that was an absolute no-go. So we showed that first list, and then they were like, no, guys, we can't work like this. You have to, that doesn't work. And so we were working on this all the time, how to just work with European technologies. We were lucky. GPT just moved to Amsterdam, and then half a year later to Switzerland. So it was perfect timing. We were the first ones who worked with GPT. Now banks accept to actually use GPT in our own environment, just in Switzerland, just for one bank. So technologically, compliance and security wise, we had to do huge steps. We did the ISO certification within 3 or 4 months. We have now the SOC certification. We have a FINMA, like financial supervisor in Switzerland. We have the certification there, all within 1.5 years. You won't find a startup that is 2 years old or 2.5 years old that already has all that stuff. So we really had to be quick.
That's impressive. Tell us maybe about the transition itself and what of impact it also had on the team, because if you were with 27 people that all of a sudden needs to change from persona, and I can also imagine in terms of processes, working with compliance, working with legal with those banks, that's not an easy shift, I would say. People are not very open to change more often than not. So how did you guys kind of navigate that?
Yeah. So first of all, I had to lay off 10 people on the spot. That was the toughest day, I think, in my life. People I would still have wanted to work with under given circumstances that were before, but we had to downsize as well. We were just too fast. And as you said, enterprise is a different game. So we changed to enterprise. I changed the model. I had still SDRs and AEs, but now I was able to kind of, from the people I had, to take the best ones and make sure that they can move on also into AE positions. I had 2 really, really capable SDRs that I wanted to move on. I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to abandon the SDR AE model in that case because it got way too complex. I didn't have the bandwidth. I had team leaders before. Afterwards, we didn't have any more team leads. So I didn't have the bandwidth to teach too many or train too many people. And it's too complex of an area for this. So we changed, and in the meantime, also I still monitored targets, target achievement and success with prospecting, and some people just didn't manage to reach these targets anymore. It was too difficult. Like from an intellectual point of view, also you have to be quite sharp with the enterprise space. Not necessarily SME space. It can be quite transactional, right? You don't have to be the sharpest person. But if you talk to C-level in the banking and so area, then it's not easy. It's definitely a different different game.
Does that mean that you had to do some reskilling also of the existing team?
Mm-hmm. I did some reskilling. So basically, the people that survived in the company were those who were really willing and had a really quick brain to learn all that stuff like really quickly. Definitely. I mean, and I had two SDRs who managed this. They are still here. They are AEs now, full cycle AEs, and successful, going really well. So it is possible. It is possible, but you have to learn extremely fast. That's probably adaptability, right? Adaptability is criteria number one. Smart intelligence, and intelligence you can. It's not a fixed criteria. If you're not intelligent today, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be in 5 years or so.
No, for sure. Hi there. Are you identifying anonymous companies visiting your website and automatically sending them to your CRM for sales team to convert? If not, you may want to check out Dealfront. It is Europe's leading go-to-market platform. With Dealfront, you can discover exactly what your website visitors are looking for and engage with the right leads at the right time with a message that captures their interest. By the way, they are already serving more than 10,000 clients across 27 European countries. To learn more about Dealfront, go at wearesales.com/Dealfront. Again, wearesales.com/Dealfront. And now, back to the episode. Did you also look externally to recruit new people with existing skill sets, from past experiences could be relevant somehow?
No, I didn't. I really wanted to do it with the people I already had, because I did believe in many of them. I mean, definitely believed they can do it. Those who didn't, after 3 months, I had to do a few more layoffs, or we had to separate from some people. It was also not anymore the right job for them. That's for sure. Or too early, too fast. But
so what was
it's not it's not the experience. It's what's interesting. What was interesting is for those who survived. It's not those who had most experience. Most had a lot of sales or years on their back, but it was those who really wanted to and really had a good work ethic. Were able to adapt.
And probably, as you said, like adaptability, like the rate at which they could change and adapt to the situation.
Yes,
I guess
exactly.
that says another also, because when it comes to the reskilling, like what was very, very different that all of a sudden they really had to learn because it was so dramatically different from the situation before? Can you top of mind think of stuff?
Yeah, two things. I mean, the first one is I added a new step in the sales process. It's a workshop, a 3-hour workshop where we invited like 5 to 10 people from the client side, either users or team leads, and we really prioritized like the use cases they want to follow, and we got out basically with a business case out of this. We had a prioritized use case, business case, so they had to learn how to do that. Workshops. I mean, somebody in the SME space, it's like, okay, you can do a demo, a discovery, a demo, and then if you're good, you also do a proposal or an ROI meeting where you kind of try to figure out an ROI or specify it. Then you show your proposal in a meeting, ideally not just via mail, and then that's it. But here it was more contextual, like bring people together, organize these large meetings, and really facilitate it well. That together with building business case was probably the biggest part. Also where I realized that some people weren't able to follow because, suddenly big maths problems to solve. And there it wasn't possible for some people.
You need to be comfortable with numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's probably the biggest sales skill that we had to add, that people were able to do these workshops, facilitate them, and really walk out with something substantial. And then the other thing, I mean, technical knowledge was a big part as well. So suddenly we didn't just do software as a service. Suddenly we did private cloud, like single tenant. I'm not sure if that tells you, but single tenant, you know, customer managed tenant on premise. What does it mean? What is the difference? We had to shift, also had huge impact on pricing and offering, and everything got really quickly quite complicated. I mean, we still try to keep it simple, but it's, you know, you can't simplify everything. So it got complicated quickly.
That would make sense. That would make sense for sure. And that's definitely also something I want to come back on, and especially that workshop aspect, because I also noticed that you made a LinkedIn post about it that I think we can say it went kind of viral. I definitely want to ask you like a couple of follow-up questions on that. But before, I also want to go back to like the team restructure and the impact it had on them, because I can also imagine the setting of the targets and the compensation structure. I can imagine that also had an impact on that. Like, was it? And I don't know
Absolutely,
what you say about it.
I actually changed. So we had individual targets before that were dependent on what salary level you were in, what experience you had. But afterwards, after that change, obviously had a bad, an impact on the culture as well. I mean, it was tough for most, right? That's usually how it is. I think right after you had to make some changes, but it does recover quite quickly. But what we did also to bring the people close together, I did a team target. So we changed to team target, and a very, you know, we define our forecast and our target for next quarter at the beginning of the quarter, or at the end of so at the end of the quarter, I look into the forecast, see what kind of opportunities are in there from everybody for next quarter, and then we go through those. I ask tough questions about it, you know, and then we make sure, do we keep it or not? And if we keep it, then it will be added to our target for next quarter. So that means now we have a target of, let's say, a million in the next quarter, and then this is the commission. That's what
the compensation
is based on.
So
on
every
that
quarter you
target.
define what the target needs to be, on which the compensation is based. Okay, interesting.
Exactly. So it's very bottom up at this point. I do know also, I mean, obviously I, as a CSO, I do know, I put together a plan with the CFO, you know, where we should land, next goal is Series A, a large Series A, 20 to 25 million. We know exactly how much revenue we need, and we know until when we can get it, right? So that's basically what I know, or what we have in the back of our heads. So we already see at the beginning of the quarter with the forecast, can we reach that? And if not, we already know that we have to take measures, right, quite before. But we have that in the back of our heads, but then we have to keep it realistic as well. So, and people don't believe in stuff that is not realistic. So we have to really go in, and that's how we do it, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's good to know. All right, so let's go back to what you mentioned earlier. So you introduced like an extra step in the sales process, being a workshop. So you mentioned you do that with 5 to 10 people at client side. Is it always easy, for example, to get those people around the table? Or do you see sometimes also people just be, you know, reluctant, like, yeah, but is it really necessary? Like,
no, it's actually quite easy. It's really easy if the technique is used in the right way. Actually, people, they really, what I see is they really like to be guided there, because we know what usually happens after the second meeting. You know, after the second meeting, the salesperson demoed everything that you can demo based on what you've learned about the customer, what the challenges are, and then you show the solution. And then usually they are fired out. You know, they don't have anything anymore. No more stuff to show, no more stuff to actually, and they don't know what to do after. That's what I've seen quite a lot, that it's not really well defined what is coming after that demo. And people usually say, okay, we have to check internally and we get back to you, right? So that's, I think, also what I wrote. And that happens a lot. And then when you say instead, Dylan, I know you have to think about certain things. You know, internally you talk to other people. I can make that easy for you. What I did with all the other banks we're working with, we did a workshop where we brought everybody together. I'm coming over to you physically. We do it in your own office. I'll facilitate it. And how I'll do it is I will present Unique to everybody at the beginning, like all the use cases we discussed. Then we'll prioritize the use cases in the team. We'll choose one or two cases that we really want to do, and then we define what the ROI would be on these, like how much time they use and so on. It's best to do that with people who are constant, who are at the front right now, who will use it in the end. And you also have the good thing about this approach is we realized that we win a lot of fans with these workshops. So people really contributed to what is going to be done, and that helped us for the project afterwards. What do you think about that? You know, what does that make sense to do that? Honestly, like the last workshops I booked after the first meeting. I mean, the last one I booked, I still do sales in Switzerland as well. Probably you've seen that on LinkedIn as well. Okay, I have 7 people now left in the team, so I can do again a bit of sales, and I enjoy it. So I cold called the head of marketing and sales of a mid-sized insurance, you know, and booked a meeting half an hour with him, and he also invited 2 more people in his team. And after half an hour, I said, guys, okay, let's book a workshop. We have that tomorrow, actually, with 7 or 8 people from their team. That's as fast. So if you manage to go in high, if you cold call the CSO, you manage to book a meeting with him, you get it quite quickly because that's the person who does it. And they usually don't have any idea how to continue anyway. They want to talk to their team members, and you make it easy for them. And people realize it. You make it easy for them to buy like this.
Yeah, I love it. Is that then also the ultimate goal of that? Is it to help them, to educate them somehow and to see them like potential opportunities, and at the same time then also for the salesperson to just get the creation of a business case with them? Is that then the yeah?
So creation of a business case, but then, you know, we already have so many different use cases that you can do, and offering pricing structure and everything also depends on what kind of use cases you're going to follow. So before you can make a proposal, you have to know everything exactly, like what use cases and so on. That plays in our hands, because we have to kind of make sure that nobody sends out a proposal just like that. There's no point in doing that. But so in order for us to be able to do an offer, or we need to exactly define it. And the best effect is we know that people don't like to be sold, but they like to buy, right? And this way you create a feeling of you don't sell to them, you just show them what you could do, and then they decide what to do, if it makes sense to do, what to do. And that creates this feeling of we decided what to do, and now I'm in for it.
Is it easy to disconnect yourself from the salesperson's role though? Because yes, you are offering a workshop, but I mean, the client, they also know that you do this with the intention of hopefully having them buy from you. So is it easy to make yourself really the true expert that's just here from an objective standpoint versus the person that's helping with, the idea of I'm getting you just further into the sales process?
I think it's they definitely see that this is further into the sales process. You're not neutral. You're still not neutral about that, right? Because you frame it at the beginning. You kind of make the direction by showing, because in the workshop it's really first. That's where you can do it. It's like just show all the problems or challenges and use cases you solve. So we really go into the demo and show them, hey, look, the way you would use it is exactly like that. You would put your phone on the table. Here's the result you would get, and so on. So we show these use cases. So they choose one of most of the time they choose one of those you already showed, but sometimes they come up with new stuff that is actually quite good, and we can add as something to do later, or maybe it's priority number 1, then we do it right away. So I think it's not, it's not separate. It's still sales. It's still you still do present
It's
your
still
stuff,
clear.
and you
Yeah.
still exactly. So
All right, but that makes sense though. Are there like specific requirements from your end before doing such a workshop? For example, do you want to know for sure that they are generally interested in implementing such technology, or are there like specific people also that you want to see in such a workshop because otherwise you don't mind actually, you don't want to do it at all? Like, are there specific requirements like that?
there are, but not many. Honestly, not many. I mean, so you have in our sales process, because it's 100% outbound driven. We don't get any inbound leads, right? So they definitely don't have a project for this right now. They definitely don't have budget already saved for this right now. That's fine. That's definitely you can't do that in an outbound motion so early. So what you have to do as a sales rep before already is you do have to figure out 2 or 3 use cases that are really interesting for them. So in a discovery demo, you have to find 2 or 3 use cases already that have potentially huge impact. Otherwise, they will not take more time and organize a workshop. That's for sure. So you have to have 2 or 3 use cases already that are interesting enough. Ideally, I mean, we work with Medi, kind of champion economic buyer, access to an economic buyer, potential economic buyer. You don't know whether, it can still change based on what's going to happen after. A champion, obviously, selfish interest to push something like that personal, access to people who are good, that's kind of but there are not many requirements. And in the workshop itself, we try to get people who are at the front. So that's why you need to already know what kind of use cases you want to push, because you need to understand, you need to know who the users are going to be. So usually users, head of sales, usually in these banks, head of private clients, head of corporate clients, head of private banking is a good person. We have head of service centers, or the agents themselves as well. Different levels of user team leads and directors and end users, basically.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. In the preparation, you also mentioned, and that's definitely also something particular about enterprise sales, is that the long cycle gets longer. But what really struck me is that you didn't really say that the sales cycle to actually get a yes, get a go from, let's say, the decision maker is what takes much longer. You said something about 3 months. It's really everything after that to really get compliance and legal on. And so I want to get like kind of your experience when it comes to that. Like what can you share about that?
Yeah, definitely. So to with this workshop and the process we have, you actually get to a yes, let's do something. We'll find money to do something, and let's try and evaluate. After that, you have compliance discussions, like security discussions. Where's the data going? Where is it processed? What do you do with client data? Do you anonymize, and so on? So thousands of questions. And I still haven't found a really, really good way to keep it very easily aligned and streamlined. Actually, that's a thing we tried with a workshop as well, but it wasn't as easy there. And as you heard the story of our first bank, obviously, I mean, it took us 9 months after they said yes to actually get it signed. But that was because we made quite a few mistakes. After that, we didn't make the same mistakes anymore, but it still takes us around 6 months with client data to get this thing after a yes from an economic buyer. After a yes, it still takes us 6 months, because the thing is this with one Swiss bank, for instance, we were the first company they worked with. They had some client data in the cloud, like in our environment, not theirs. So the first time to do this, and the first time to work with GPT. And you've seen it. I mean, GPT, some are quite critical about it. What's with the data and so on? You can opt out and anything, but some are still critical about it. So it's for most compliance teams and security teams, it's a new topic as well. So they can't just take their sheet and tick the boxes and say, okay, yes, they have this. They don't even know what boxes there are. So they need to define the boxes, what needs to be fulfilled, and then they can basically check us. So the first times we were coming, they don't even know. So it takes them months to dive into the topic, to say, okay, this is okay. And we are also a young company, right? 2.5 years. I mean, this is...
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to say, like, sometimes that's also the role of the salesperson, to help the client navigate those, because you have done it so multiple times. But when you're a startup and it's also new to you, like it makes it, I can imagine a big challenge.
So the best thing we did is we hired somebody in the executive board, Sina. She's doing, she did the ISO certifications, the SOC certifications. She implemented like a whole compliance framework, and it was perfect anticipation. She started a year ago, was perfect timing. So she does to support the sales team with all that part. Like after the verbal yes, she's coming in, or most of the time even before, because there are some compliance questions they want to answer before. If it's even slightly possible to do. Now we don't have the issue anymore, because we have so many logos on our website and on our presentations that they're like, other banks can do it, we can do it as well. So they don't need to check all the boxes before, but that was also the case beforehand. But I would hire, if this is a critical topic, if you really want to go into banking, you need someone who's got a name there a bit, and who kind of is playing the role of data and security. Security, we have also a very good expert.
To just educate you
necessary
as the sales organization on what to be mindful of and what to check with the clients.
Yes, exactly.
Right, that's good advice. I want to go back to something you just said, and actually, as I've said also at the beginning, is that social proof has such an impact when it comes to selling to that segment of the market. And I hear it all the time when it comes to enterprise sales, having those logos that creates trust, it always works. And in another conversation, someone also even said that whenever you do like the move to enterprise sales and you need those first logos, those first customers, it's actually okay to really don't look too much at the revenue that come in, right? A bit of the get the logo no matter the costs, so to speak, because it would bring tremendous value in terms of social proof. Look, so I was kind of wondering, like, what's your opinion on that, or maybe have you also done something similar to that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that you describe it perfectly. You at the beginning, we did our first little project with a big insurance in Switzerland. That was almost 2 years ago. One of the first projects Manuel and I tried to kind of do at the same time as we targeted the other ICP, and we used that to win the next. Like we talk about these projects in a way that is possible. And the name dropping and so on. Name dropping is so important. So you talk about this little project that you've done for free. We did it for free, but our AI team learned a lot as well, but it took some time, but we did it for free. This first little project, 2 weeks or so. And then we had some results out there, like how good the summaries are and so on. And so we used that to win the next big project. It's like a 50K deal with another insurance for a year. And from then on, you win the next maybe 75, you increase, and you can actually win real projects. We are at 418,000 is, I think, the biggest one. We probably, until the end of the year, we're going to have the first one above 500,000 per year. Like, let's say 700-800K or something.
Yeah.
Working on that. So, and then you can increase, you get more professional, but you have to get these first projects. You have to get a few or names that you did projects with that you can mention and so on. So important. That's absolutely critical.
Yeah, no, absolutely love that. Hi guys, Before we dive back into the episode, I've got something super, super exciting to share with you. Mark your calendars for May 16 because We Are Sales 2024 is happening. And this isn't just any conference, it is the conference for European sales leaders where you can expect to learn from the best and be surrounded by the most ambitious revenue leaders from Europe. And so whether you're an aspiring sales leader, sales director, VP sales, or chief revenue officer, the We Are Sales Conference is truly the place to be. Tickets are now available and you can grab your ticket by visiting our website at wearesales.com/conference. Again, it is wearesales.com/conference. And now back to the episode. I was also wondering, especially if you all of a sudden have to change from focus, right? From the initial persona to that banking with probably somewhat of a new product, but also the messaging online, working with marketing, what can you say about that cooperation, especially if you have to change, trajectory?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's important to be really, really close. That's for sure. I'm leading the weekly for sales and the marketing, basically. So we are all together, at least 1.5 hours a week. And we know from each other what we are doing, what are the most important use cases, what is working, what is not working, and so on. So marketing is extremely close to the team. I mean,
do you try to incorporate marketing with customer calls?
I mean, our software is recording every single discussion we have. So you can mention, like you did, preparing for this call, right? You didn't have to participate, but we use it all the time, tagging people in a certain moment in a call and say hey, Dylan, check this out. That's an important thing that needs to go on the website and be in the use case section because you hear our clients saying it. That's the way they really also get it. Nowadays, that's the thing. You can't work anymore or collaborate that effectively without recording these calls and having people who never talk to customer actually listen to customer calls as well. That's the best thing.
I would agree. I would agree with that. That's the most valuable type of calls you can have nowadays. So kind of, obviously we are kind of approaching the end of the interview, but I was still wondering, especially because you mentioned towards next year, you guys are looking to raise Series A. So what's the focus right now, and what's going to be the ambition for once capital has been raised?
Yeah, so the focus right now is we have Germany and Switzerland from a country perspective. We focus solely on these two countries. Obviously, Switzerland by far biggest, easiest success now because that's where we started. Right, another country is
and the bank
is again. Then they don't ask, with what banks do you work? They ask, with what banks do you work in Germany? And you're again. You're again from the start, none. Yeah, okay, but we have way tougher data protection rules than Switzerland. Oh shit. Okay, that's how it starts.
There you go again.
Yeah. So focusing with the current team on getting, we have a mid-level, an ARR target that we know we need to get. We have our run rate is quite long, 1.5 years or so with the current team, even some growth in there. We won't grow the team until now, but we get to productivity, everybody to that level that you would want in the enterprise sales, right? Between 800K a year or 200K a quarter to 300K a quarter. That's where we need to get at. And that looks quite good. And after that, mid next year, we need to, in the meantime now we need to think about a strategy, how we are tackling it abroad as well, because that was a big change too, right? Tech companies, scale-ups, they are very homogeneous. It doesn't matter if you have a Benelux scale-up or a Swiss scale-up or a German scale-up. They care about the same things. They work more or less the same way. They don't have any regulations. They, it's the same. They speak English and so on. So changing to banks, you realize, oh damn, in the UK, banks work completely differently than in Switzerland. And in Germany, people, they have more rules, more blah 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 that might make it useless to even start in some areas.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out what countries do we really want to tackle and how do we do that. So we're looking into Singapore now. I don't think US is the right place to go, because Gong is also, by the way, going into financial services. You see some AEs on LinkedIn that says AEs, enterprise AE for financial services. So that is already happening. I don't think US. Obviously, Gong now is also increasing the ICP, right? They are late enough to get more revenue. They have to. Yeah, they have to open up, definitely.
That's interesting, man. We'll for sure keep an eye on you and keep an eye on Unique and see how this further evolves. Maybe like somewhat of a roundup question, like if you would have to start again from the beginning of the Unique story, maybe the beginning of doing that move, you understood that there were like a couple of signals into the banking industry. That's maybe something you want to focus on, and all the way that experience from now, like if there would be like one thing that maybe you would have done a little bit differently because it was somewhat a pain in the, like what would you have done differently?
I would, as soon as we decide to change, I would hire a lawyer or an expert in the banking area, like with data protection, security, and so on. Like really somebody external who can tell you what exactly banks would need in terms of contractual stuff, like data protection, security. What would be their requirements that we need to make sure we fulfill right from the start? Because it was kind of a gradual process. We learned and added, and we were lucky. We probably haven't lost trust, but it was extremely slow with some of the process, and I think that can be, so somebody external. I mean, I said we had Sina, but she wasn't an expert in all the topics either, and so we learned together, but without her would not have been possible. But I would do it faster and right, from the start.
No, I think that's definitely good advice. I think whatever move you're doing, if it's new to you, it's probably not per se new to everyone else. So there are probably some people in the market that can help you with educating yourself. I think that's good advice. Patrick, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, for being as transparent as you were, because it's not always the case. So thank you for that. Maybe like, is there a call to action that you want to make towards the audience? Maybe, you mentioned that you're not per se looking to hire anyone at Unique right now, but maybe, for people in the banking industry, any other call to action you want to make?
Well, you can reach out at any time. I'm as a sales leader, something I learned early on is always be hiring, even though you don't have an open position at the moment, but you need to increase the network or talk to people that can be a potential hire in half a year, in 3 months, and maybe if it's going really well, in 2 months, you never know, right? So, reach out on LinkedIn. My name is quite unique. You don't find a second person with the same name on LinkedIn, so just put it into the search field. I think you
cannot do anything wrong.
You cannot do anything wrong, and then reach out.
Perfect.
Ideally, not with a message on LinkedIn. That's what I forget quickly. You can do a voice message. That's better.
A voice message. There it's
emails. But I have my phone number on LinkedIn. I don't get many calls, so that's still feasible.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So anyone listening to this want to talk to Patrick, please, you have to call him.
Yes.
All right.
That would be best.
Patrick, again, thank you so much, and wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thank you, Dylan.
That's it. We've once again reached the end of an episode. I just really appreciate you all spending the time. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And until next week with a fresh new episode.